On this week's episode, was Comic-Con at home worth staying home for? A Halo graphics debate arises. And do we really need video game crowd noise? All this and more as we rev up our motorcycle and once again delve into the pop culture cosmos.
Welcome to the pop culture cosmos.
And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, the Lakers Fast Break, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you get a chance, please give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Or if you can go ahead and like, follow, subscribe, share, or when we're doing our gaming videos, like this one, you could throw us some stars at us. That would be truly appreciated from all of us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.
Stars, Facebook stars, not ninja stars, okay? I know how some people take things literally, so we don't throw ninja stars at us, but like the Facebook stars. Click on those. That's what we want.
Can I throw a ninja star at you?
Yeah, I mean, that would be quite the throw, but yeah. I bought some from a swap meet one time, and they're easy to hurt yourself with. So also on that note, be careful.
Well, it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He's our own great white shark for Pop Culture Cosmos. You got to check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com. Also, as well, his great shows, Topicocalypse and the Super BS Gamescast. And of course, everything that he does with his book, Congratulations You Suck, which is now available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It is my good friend. It is Josh, Jaws, for this time only, Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
So speaking of sharks, did you ever play the LucasArts game Armed and Dangerous back on the original Xbox?
Heard of it, never played it. Although I do want to give a big shout out to Jaws on his 45th anniversary. So I just wanted to go ahead and that's most likely one of the reasons why you're wearing the shirt today.
I am, yeah. Classic movie. Not a huge fan of Jaws 3, but Jaws 1 and 2 were pretty decent. But anyways, back to my thing. There's a gun actually in Armed and Dangerous that shoots sharks out, and it plays the Jaws music in the background. So we need more things like that is the point I'm trying to make here. Also, Universal Studios still has the Jaws thing up and running, so good for them. Check that out when the COVID stuff's over. And happy anniversary, Jaws.
Absolutely. Happy anniversary indeed. And if you guys want to, I try and reach out to one of the writers of Jaws. I can always do that. Great guy, PR rep, Steve Joyner. He has access to that. So if you guys want me to, reach out to me at Pop Culture Cosmo on Twitter or popculturecosmos@yahoo.com, and I'll go ahead and I can set something up on an interview if you guys are interested in, and we'll be glad to do so right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So,
do you ever get sore from like flexing the I know people muscles?
Well, Steve Joyner is a really good guy, really great PR rep. He knows a lot of good people out there, but no, you can never know enough good people in this world. So,
it's true. It's all about networking. You'd be surprised at who you might know that might know somebody. That's how this podcast has worked, right? You know, we've kind of known people, got interviews. That's how I got to interview one of my favorite bands. So it never hurts to network.
But we are going to have a great show today. We're going to be talking about a lot of great things, including a wrap-up of Comic-Con. And was it the same for Comic-Con at home? And did it have the same time appeal now that could just a whole bunch of people could see what was going on at Comic-Con? Plus also as well, we're going to be talking about video game crowd noise. Do you really need it in your sporting events? We'll talk about that at the back end of the show. I'll have some impressions of Sisters Royale, which I've actually got right here loaded up on the Xbox One. Got some impressions of that. And I also, with Josh, he's got a game that he's currently playing through. I'm playing through Sisters Royale. He's playing through another game, Crosscode. And we're going to have more detailed thoughts on the Friday program as well. Plus, I've got a great guest on. I had an interview with Jared Weems from Weems Motor Company. If you're interested and you have a motorcycle, specifically a British Triumph motorcycle that you need restored to its best quality and actually even better than new, best place to go is Weems Motor Company. So he talks about his background in motorcycle restoration, and we want to give again a big shout out to one of our biggest fans, Nancy Weems, for allowing me to go ahead and interview Jared on that. So we truly appreciate it. So that interview is coming up for everybody that's listening on radio and of course on our audio podcast as well. But my friend, why don't you go ahead, and you've been shouting out this over the past few days on social media, your thoughts on the Halo graphics debate. I first want to go ahead and clarify the competition between the two, Xbox and PlayStation, on their various events. Okay, I was a little short on the number of games that were announced from Xbox, because if you include the indie games, the number rises up to 22. So it's about 36, 37 announced for PlayStation and about 22 announced for Xbox. A little bit better as far as the difference is concerned, but Xbox still needs a little bit more variance and more titles shouted out there. But the biggest one of all, Halo Infinite, is getting a lot of flack at this point in time.
See, that right there, that's part of the problem, right? Because you have people saying, oh, well, Xbox didn't show enough games. And they showed around the same number as PlayStation did, but people don't want to count because they don't want Xbox to win. People say, oh, Xbox only makes first-person shooters. So Xbox goes, okay, well, we'll make some RPGs. And then people goes, well, those ones belong to Sony in the first place. You know, they can't win. These news media outlets attack them relentlessly, and it's so sad. Like the internet has so many opinions and ideas on this whole thing, and nobody cares. I don't know. It frustrates me, man. I'm sorry. I can go on and on about this, but
please do. We've got an hour show.
Well, I've stopped reading things because it's pointless. Like, you look at all the comment sections, like even in the stuff about Halo, people are like, well, it's not Horizon, it's not God of War. God of War and Horizon's so much better. Like, do you listen to yourself? Seriously, it's like, I'm sorry. I need to stop.
Actually, it would be kind of cool if you did that voice. You did that voice for a whole hour. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, these Sony fanboys dragging their little stone bats around like cavemen.
Hey! A lot of those Sony fanboys listen and watch our shows, so please, gotta stay on the fence, man. Gotta stay on both sides.
And I'm just getting some frustrations out here. But anyways, as for the Halo thing, I don't understand. Like, I thought that it looked okay, but they didn't have the 4K and ray tracing turned on, so. I forget what they interviewed the guy who was in charge of putting that presentation together, and I forget what he said. There's some reason that sounded pretty legitimate, but if you go on YouTube now, you can watch like the upgraded, the upgraded demos up there now, and it looks a lot better. But I think the game looks okay. I don't know what people are comparing it to. They're dealing with a new color palette, new engine. We have, and also, okay, I actually want to talk to you about this. What did they say? They said, like, this is the platform for the next 10 years of Halo, right? So this game is going to be constantly evolving. And they said it's not a game like what do they call it? The live service game, but it's just like, I'm assuming it's going to be like Waypoint, and how they kept adding content on the Waypoint, or like Halo 4, right? Remember they kept doing more Spartan Ops stuff on there. I assume it's going to be something like that. We'll see. But they said the graphics are going to keep improving even up to launch. So I think that maybe they should not have shown a trailer so prematurely if it wasn't ready. But
well, again, it comes back to first impressions. First impressions are the best ones to give. And as you know, with the consoles, and when they do these releases and when they do these announcements before the console even comes out, first impressions are usually the most memorable. I mean, you and I both at that PlayStation 4 press conference from E3 still remember the sharing, that handing one disc to the other Sony exec from one Sony exec, and still remember that as a big smack on Xbox that lasted for a long time. You have those first impressions. You got to make the best of them, man. You got to.
Yeah, you do. I also like I said though, I feel like people were already going to the Microsoft conference wanting to say that Sony was better before the conference even started. So
I didn't. I want Xbox.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying you did. I just it seems to be the attitude of a lot of video game journalists. You look at like the kind of funnies, the IGNs, the Polygons, like the Kotaku. Kotaku wrote an article blasting Microsoft before the conference was even finished. Like they can't win. Yeah, they make mistakes. And Sony, look at Sony's conference. A lot of what they talked about were, a lot of their main stuff was like sequels and reboots. If Microsoft would have done that, that would have been the complaint. Well, it's all just sequels and reboots, and it's. They can't win. Like, it doesn't matter what they show. Microsoft will not be able to win with the press.
Okay, and I just want to clarify. We both have.
I have both consoles.
I have all
like
three.
Them both. I like Sony. I like Microsoft both. I just don't like some of the rivalry. Kind of agitates me because I don't understand it.
Again, as someone who appreciates all the consoles, in fact, I've been called a Nintendo hater, but I even now have a Nintendo Switch, and I think it's a great system. So. Leaning towards PlayStation, but then again, Xbox still has a lot of time to go ahead and make up for that because they have some good games. Avowed from Obsidian looks incredible. I mean, that they should have gone ahead and gone more into because Obsidian is that company that a lot of gamers like, but they're not as well known to the general audience. But my gosh, they've made some fantastic games, and they could use really a high profile release, and Avowed could be just that.
Yeah, Avowed looks amazing. Well, and here's my thoughts. Man, back to the console thing. Like I haven't decided which one I'm gonna get yet. Obviously I can get Halo Infinite on Xbox One. So really, if there's a console that has at least 3 games that I'm interested in at launch, then I'll probably end up with that one. And it could be PlayStation, could be Xbox. I just I want to give both a fair chance.
Sounds good. You know what? I'm going to give both a fair chance as well. We're giving all 3 a fair chance on the current systems because, again, I'm looking at all 3 of mine right now. So, still, plenty of time left in this game. Plenty of time to go ahead and decide which one you want. Plus, availability is also going to be an issue, and that's something that they don't really talk about. Price, availability, and also
release
street date. Yeah. So. There's still much to talk about when it comes to the console wars and the next console generation. Halo, to me, it looks pretty good, but again, it doesn't look amazing, which a lot of people were hoping for. I mean, we've seen YouTube videos out there that breaks everything down on the graphics, like bit by bit by bit. Oh my gosh, this doesn't look as good as Halo 5, etc., etc., etc. Oh, there's pop in here, and I thought Xbox Series X was supposed to prevent that, etc., etc. It looks good. And does it play well? Does it bring something new to the Halo genre? I think that's something that I think a lot of people are looking more towards than does it have the cutting edge graphics? I mean, they're going to leave that to Forza and some of the other games, I think, as far as that's concerned, because
and that's not to say that Halo shouldn't look good.
No,
to me, the most important thing about Halo has always been the narrative. To me, I've always thought that they were amazing storytellers. Granted, 5 wasn't my favorite, but you kind of notice that the graphical abilities, I guess, of the franchise took a huge turn at 4, right? You had 4 and 5 where just the game looked totally different. So I wonder if they're trying maybe to get back to what Halo used to be, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I mean, people have to give it, and granted, the screenshots were not flattering that came out of that conference for the game, but I mean, I think people just need to give it a chance because who knows, at launch this could be a completely different beast, and granted, Microsoft should have probably thought about what that was going to do, but I don't think that it's worth all the hate that it's getting.
Exactly, and I don't think it is either. And I did say on Friday's PCC Multiverse, I was a little bit disappointed in what they had to offer. I thought they should have given you more, especially because they're the one coming after PlayStation 5, because PlayStation 5 went first, so you know what to expect. And I thought they didn't quite give you what they needed to give you, but they're not out of it by any stretch of the imagination.
I agree, and I'm hoping we'll get to see more games before launch, or even maybe they'll do another conference that'll give us the street date, of the console itself. But there's going to be more. There has to be more, and I'm sure there's going to be more Halo stuff being released as it gets closer to its launch date.
Absolutely, and we'll keep updating you right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source on Facebook. So you're always going to get the latest info, the latest news items, so please go ahead and do so. Follow us, like our pages today, Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source.
Hey, this is Chad from Ghost Toasters, and you're listening to Pop Culture Cosmos Podcast.
Hey, Lakers fans! Looking for the best place to go for up-to-date news, information, original videos, articles, podcasts, opinion pieces, and discussions about the Los Angeles Lakers? Well, look no further than Lakerholics.com. With a legion of followers always there talking about everything Lakers and the NBA, there's no better place to go to share your fandom as the team heads toward another championship run. So stop by and be part of the conversation today at Lakerholics.com. Well, my friend, there was also much more to talk about when it concerns Comic-Con. Comic-Con at home, past few days. Some interesting things, tidbits here and there, but nothing earth-shattering. There was no real trailer that rocked the world, or people were just all over the globe and the internet or social media talking about. I mean, there was great updates on The Boys, which got renewed for Season 3, even before Season 2 came out. I loved that trailer. Absolutely loved the trailer that they showed off. I don't know if you've seen it yet. All I will say is it was a whale of a good time as far as that trailer is concerned. So hopefully you will get a chance to see that if you haven't already. Rick and Morty, just updating you on Season 5 and Season 6. Archer, I believe on Season 11, they showed the latest trailer for that. They had Bill and Ted. They had Benicio del Toro. They had so many different panels that were there that were very interesting. But without DC and Marvel there, as we suspected, or at least I suspected anyways, it didn't have that oomph that I think Comic-Con, especially in its first year trying this virtual at home because of obviously COVID reasons, that it really needed to get.
Yeah, it's... Well, you're not there, like I said last on the multiverse, it's the atmosphere that really does it for people, being able to dress up and like see all the comic books of it. It just, the atmosphere, it electrifies you. And that's something that I think showing just in online video stuff seems to lack. Did you happen to catch the Constantine 15-year anniversary stuff at all?
Well, that's why I left it in the show notes right here, my friend, because Keanu Reeves got a chance to sit down with also the creators of the movie Constantine. And obviously the most interesting news that was that they had sequels in mind, which brings up the slight possibility now in a streaming environment where content of any kind is needed. That could be of interest to people out there. Could this revive interest in a Constantine sequel? I mean, at the time, they said that the studio passed on it because they really didn't know what they had, even though it did earn a profit. It didn't earn a huge profit, but it did earn a profit. But the studio really couldn't think, just it was kind of weird for them, and I can understand why.
They didn't understand it, yeah. Well, I mean, anytime you're dealing with spiritual things, I can totally understand people wanting to stay away from that, especially back when that movie came out, right? Because that was before all the progressive stuff we see today. So you have a lot of like Christian moms sitting at home going, no, and those are the kids that would probably go to see the movie, the kids who sat at home reading Hellblazer comics or Hellboy or whatever.
I think it's a little different now.
Yeah, the atmosphere is definitely a lot different. I think Constantine 2 could be very successful today, especially if they just the dark tones of the film. I think it could tie easily into something that already exists, and I know they're talking about doing a Justice League Dark movie or something streaming on HBO Max, and they could easily carry Keanu Reeves over onto something like that. I feel like that could be
Can't afford him on something like that. I would say that they would do a Constantine 2 movie separate from having him in Justice League Dark. I don't.
Keanu Reeves is a man of the people. I feel like he would consider it at least.
Okay, he'll consider it at least. Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
No, one of the other things that was funny was the fact that they were very kind of close-lipped about whether or not they had asked him to bleach his hair and talk with a British accent.
Yeah.
You see, they were asking about that, and he started laughing.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm hopeful. Do you want a Constantine 2? I would love to see one. I thought that Keanu Reeves and Rachel Weisz, that was a very, very great movie, and it had a really great soundtrack scored by featuring A Perfect Circle. James Maynard Keenan did some music for that.
Love that theme. Love the Constantine theme.
Yeah.
So I just absolutely love it. The movie itself was good, and I have rewatched it at least 2 or 3 times since. One of my daughters was trying to watch a couple minutes of it, and she didn't really get it. To me, it was a good movie. It wasn't a great movie because I think the pacing was just a little slow.
Yeah. So have you ever read the Hellblazer
comic? It has its own vibe,
comic?
and the problem is the vibe is slow.
It is a slow. Well, have you ever read the Hellblazer comics?
Yeah, a little bit.
So a lot of those, like a lot of the dialogue, it's taking place in Constantine's head. So he's like thinking about things, and then when he actually acts on them, it's like an episode of Supernatural, and like you have the investigation. I think they're trying to. The world of Hellblazer is huge, and I think the problem was they're trying to take too much of that world and condense it into an 1.5-hour movie, and it didn't really. Well, it was good. There was a lot more that could be explored in like 2 or 3. Having the thing with Chaz and Papa Midnight, like those are all characters that have a lot of development that still could happen, assuming Shia LaBeouf would come back and do the part, which
that's
I don't know
also a tough
how I feel about.
Well,
yeah,
he's kind of dead.
He was in a movie, right? When he tattooed himself just for this movie, and then it turns out that he didn't actually need to show the tattoos.
Yeah, that was correct.
Yeah.
But he's actually, spoiler alert, and I'm sorry if I'm giving away a 15-year-old movie, but he's kind of dead.
Oh yeah, in the movie he is dead. Yeah,
so you don't really need him back.
Yeah, but I mean, it is a movie that revolves around like supernatural things, so they could easily bring him back. But I don't know. Chaz also has a daughter, so I mean that could be something they could play around with too.
Yeah, I just would love to see Rachel Weisz and Keanu Reeves get back together. And they were kind of awkward, their relationship and how it ended and whatnot, or was it continuing, or a lot of that stuff going on there. So it was kind of like, I'd like to see that, see if that something could brew out of that, or maybe not, or how that works. Or the dagger was supposed to be deep, lost and put somewhere where Keanu Reeves wouldn't know, even Keanu Reeves himself wouldn't know where it is. And can
we talk for a minute about Gavin Rossdale, like how he owned that part? I forget what his character's name was, but like for someone who had never been in films before, who had only done Bush music videos, like he was pretty good. He was pretty good.
Yes, I agree. But Constantine, you never know. The rumors and murmurs, let them start now, my friend, because everyone out there, if you want to go ahead and have a Constantine back in your life with Keanu Reeves, doesn't hurt to start that campaign right now, because there was sequels that were being planned as the movie was being made. The studio really didn't get the concept of Constantine once it came out, but they sure want it now when it comes to, like you said, Josh, Justice League Dark for HBO Max. Could there be another Constantine on the way? Who knows? But overall, your impressions of Comic-Con at home, and just want to hear your final thoughts on if you can go ahead and be something in the future a lot better than what it was, I think, this past few days. Because it was okay, but the problem is it was just okay.
Yeah, that's where I stand. It was just okay. I wasn't like hyped about anything. There wasn't any big announcements or anything like that. I did enjoy it. Did this take place at Comic-Con, the Zack Snyder talking about stuff?
Yes, and that's the other thing. Zack Snyder did show off a little bit more footage from the Zack Snyder cut, and there was a lot of commenting, bashing on Joss Whedon, obviously because of the way he treated people on the set. And Zack Snyder did say he would not use one frame of the footage that Joss Whedon shot for the film. He would rather burn the whole Zack Snyder cut before going ahead and do that. And I get that, and I understand that. But the actors were still bashing Joss Whedon when he was there. In fact, so much so that he had his own panel for another thing, and that got canceled very quietly. But yeah, Zack Snyder showed off a little bit more from the Snyder cut. It goes a little bit more into dark side, and I really kind of think I'm going to be very interested in it. Now, we're still not 100% sure how it's going to weigh out, whether it's not going to be a series or whether it's going to be a movie. Right now, it's totaling between 4 and 5 hours ish, I think, is what they're talking about. Overcross hints on social media. So we'll see how the Zack Snyder cut lays out, but I'm very interested to see what's going on with that because, I mean, for now, a lot of people can go ahead with the movement that they created with the Zack Snyder cut and get that finally off their chest. And so when it arrives in 2021, people can get the original vision that Zack Snyder saw in the Justice League.
Well, I'm hopeful. One, let me talk about his comments for a second. Like I applaud that. Like there's a lot of passion in his storytelling. Like he is, say what you want about Batman versus Superman or Man of Steel, the man is very passionate about the story that he was trying to tell. And my hope is that Justice League, the Snyder cut, will be successful enough for him to continue on. And whether or not that storytelling overlaps what's being done in, with Aquaman and Wonder Woman, I don't know. But I would love to see the end of his story come to fruition, even if they have to find somebody else to play Batman. I know. I just love to see the rest of that tale being told. As for the Joss Whedon stuff, I don't really know anything about. I mean, I heard that Ray, what's his name, that plays Cyborg, I heard he was unhappy with
extremely unhappy. He was treated very poorly, in his own words, by Joss Whedon on the set when Joss Whedon took over, and he has no love lost and has admitted so in the past few weeks regards to relationship that he had or lack thereof with Joss Whedon. And basically it's just, there it is. It's gotten to the point where, like I said, Joss Whedon can't do anything now because he's getting a lot of flack on social media. Joss Whedon had a panel set up at Comic-Con and had to cancel it because of this controversy.
Well, what makes me curious about the whole thing is that neither he nor anyone on his team has reached out to deny any of these allegations. So that's what makes me wonder about the whole thing.
No, that's what Ray Fisher said. Sue me for slander. If that's the case. So
yeah. So I don't know. But I mean, I'm glad that we are seeing the true Justice League vision coming to life. And I'm glad that Zack Snyder seems very, very fired up about this. And that's why I'm so excited, because when I see an artist creating something and they're stoked about it, that makes me excited to watch it.
This is true, my friend. This is true. But again, your overall impressions of Comic-Con, was it a still can't miss event?
No. It was okay. And I'm sure over time these videos that they're posting will get more and more views. But I think people love Comic-Con is because of the act of being there, being able to dress up, being in the midst of all those people who have not showered in 3 days. And the people, hawking their goods, selling comic books, selling manga, selling toys, action figures, whatever it might be. Getting, Square is usually there, and you get to get your hands on their latest games and demos and whatever it might be. And even just the act of all these comic book booths are there, and people go with their submissions and they drop them in the box because this is what they've been waiting for all year. They've been working on these comic book scripts and they're able to give them to people. That's not happening. So, I mean, if you're there strictly for content, then yes, that type of person will really get a lot out of this. But as for the entire Comic-Con experience, it's a very shallow reflection of what it is in person.
If Marvel and DC, they go ahead and do their own thing continuously going forward like they're going to, that's going to be a bad sign for Comic-Con as a premier event down the road.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and the hope is that once the COVID stuff gets under control, that we'll be able to go back to having people all gather again. But, who knows when that will happen. So I guess you just gotta kind of make do with what you can do at the moment.
What are your thoughts out there on Comic-Con at home? Did you enjoy it? How much did you watch? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Plus, also send us your thoughts on the continuous Halo Infinite debate. Were you worried about the graphics? Is it not up to your expectations? And are you leaning one way or the other when it comes to Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Plus, also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And Pop Culture Cosmos on TikTok as well. Coming up next, we've got Jared Weems from Weems Motor Co. The interview I did with him, talking about all the great stuff that he's doing. Then after that, Josh and I are going to talk about video game crowd noise. Do we need it in our real sports today? We're going to share that debate coming up here in a sec. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos.
Coming soon, Zero Cool Films presents Action Figure Adventure. Super collector Jay Bartlett hits the road once again in search of action figures' most iconic and noteworthy and rare figures, all in the name of creating the most ultimate action figure auction ever. He fronts the cash that charity benefits in the end. What will he get? How will he get it? And how well will he do? Find out November 1st, 2020.
It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here, and I thank everyone for listening out there around the world on radio, and of course right where you get your podcasts. There's some great hobbies that people can go ahead and look at, or they can go ahead and get into, because right now I'm going to be talking to someone who has a lot of interesting things to say when it comes to motorcycles. That's right, vroom, vroom, vroom. So get your motorcycle gear on, the helmet on, strap on. We're going to go ahead and take a ride on some British motorcycles, because you're seeing Weems Motor Company. That's right. It's the place to go for custom designed British motorcycles, especially the Triumph motorcycle. It has a name that is one of the most well-known around the world as far as motorcycles are concerned. And these classic motorcycles from around the world get sent to this man for restoration. And I'll tell you what, he does an outstanding job. And if you haven't checked it out yet, it's available now at weemsmotorco.com. It is Jared Weems. And Jared, I cannot thank you enough for joining me today. And special shout out to Nancy. I know she's probably watching us somewhere. Nancy, thanks so much for watching, giving us a suggestion for today's interview. And Jared, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, Gerald, thanks for having me out, buddy.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've got you right in the shop right there. You have such a passion from what I've been able to see, the videos, the designs, and also the restoration, the time that you taking these older Triumph motorcycles and going ahead and restoring them to beauty. How much of a passion is it for you to go ahead and do that? And really, just how rewarding is it for you when you go ahead and you finish the work on a great restoration of a Triumph vehicle?
You definitely have to have a passion to work on any British bike, much less a vintage British bike. It's definitely a labor of love. The work that goes into it is, it's kind of become therapeutic. It's a moment where you can kind of just go out into the shop, shut your brain off, or turn your brain on and think about everything that's going on. I know that, socially we're dealing with the coronavirus and all the quarantining, and not only that, but also the social issues that we're dealing with, with the racial divide that's happening in our country. So, yeah, man, the garage, the shop has kind of become kind of my therapy room, man. It's like a place for counseling where I can just go out and just process my thoughts and just kind of get a better grasp on life.
Absolutely. Now, these requests that you get, including one that we were talking about just before we went on camera, these requests you get from individuals on these older bikes, because when we're talking about some of these Triumph motorcycles that you are repairing, and people are seeing it now on your gallery at weemsmotorco.com, they're seeing the work on these. These are not easy to find motorcycles. They're in their 50s, they're 1960s. They're really older Triumph motorcycles. So I want to hear your thoughts. How do they get a hold of these motorcycles? Are they just left in attics, or are they just maybe passed down from generation to generation, or storage facilities? How do they get a hold of these things and then decide, I'm going to go ahead and turn to Jared to go ahead and restore it back to its former self.
Man, I've heard many different stories about how guys come across these old bikes, and yeah, man, some of them are upwards of 70 years old now, and so man, I've had stories of guys pulling, motorcycles out of old barns and motorcycles that have been passed down through the family. A lot of the motorcycles that I find, they're never in a riding condition. They're always in some need of repair, and most of them are just ends up being just buckets and piles of parts that you just kind of start playing Lego and putting things back together and restoring and bringing things back. Yeah, it's funny to see where some of these bikes that I've built have come from, and to see where they go to after they get done.
And that's the thing, because like you said, sometimes they literally come to you in pieces and you don't have all the pieces. So sometimes it's like putting a puzzle together, but you literally just get it sometimes off the back of a truck, and it's just in pieces, and they say go to it. But then again, you also have to go ahead and restore it to its former beauty. And in order to do so, you need to find all these original parts. Is that correct?
Yeah. They don't remanufacture parts from the 1940s and the 1950s and the 1960s. I mean, luckily there are some great distributors that are out there now. The vintage motorcycle market has picked up a little bit, got a lot more of attention over the last, I'd say, 10 to 15 years.
There's some reality shows that have really sparked the interest for that industry, from what I've seen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, so what has happened with that is, obviously with the internet and everything nowadays too, is a lot of these parts are now starting to surface. The difficult part about that is, the parts are starting to surface, but also the value has skyrocketed. So when you're looking for some of these ultra rare parts that are missing, number one, you're purchasing an old used part that may be broken, that may be unrepairable, but definitely all need to get repaired in some form or matter. And so a lot of the people, they, with the internet, they're able to jump online to see what the value of a lot of these pieces and parts. And a lot of people are kind of mistaken when it comes to placing values on things. I mean, they look at eBay and they see what the people are asking. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean what people are paying. Yeah. So, I mean, but, as overall with these bikes, I reach out to my distributors first. I've got some great people, JRC Engineering out in California. They're actually remanufacturing some parts, and luckily they've teamed up with me, and I'm able to get that stuff. But most of the time, man, it ends up being scouring, the internet, making contacts with people in England, because, Triumph motorcycles, British motorcycles are from,
of course,
Europe. And so I've made contacts over in Europe to reach out to some of the guys there that have, just like me, have stockpiles of pieces and parts that we end up trading back and forth. I got this, you got that, we'll swap it out.
And that's one thing I wanted to ask you, because it is harder to go ahead and find the pieces for these vintage vehicles, because again, you're talking about bikes that like you said, the 60s, the 50s, and even the 1940s. Say, what's the oldest Triumph motorcycle that you've had the pleasure of working on? Well, it may have not been such a pleasure after you worked on it, because it might take a lot doing, but the oldest motorcycle that you worked on.
It's a funny story, because the oldest motorcycle that I've personally worked on was my dad's 1949 Triumph. And he was building the motorcycle, and I was like 6 or 7 years old. And while he was at work, I decided to grab some of his tools and start taking parts off of it. And he came home from work, and little Jared was 6 or 7 years old, was using his tools to take his motorcycle apart. So the first motorcycle I've ever worked on was the oldest motorcycle I've ever worked on. But as a professional builder, I built a 1951 Triumph Thunderbird that was featured in Greasy Culture magazine and the Horseback Street Choppers. Wonderful bike. I built that bike in 2012. Great story. Ended up selling that motorcycle to a family in California. They bought it for their grandfather. He was turning 90 years old, and he had a motorcycle exactly like mine, same year, same paint scheme, everything. And they wanted to buy my motorcycle to give it to their grandfather for his 90th birthday. So it went to a great family. The grandson, he's a professional motocross racer. So a motorcycle family, and it's sitting in their collection. I reach out to them about once a year and say, hey, how's the bike doing? Does it need anything? And they're like, oh, it's just sitting here in the collection. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, great.
That's awesome. Probably only gets tested, maybe a couple times a year at best?
Yeah, probably once or twice a year. He says he takes it out. But when they present it to the grandfather, I mean, it was a big story. The newspapers came out and did a big story. So they sent me, the newspaper articles and stuff. So I felt, I didn't build the motorcycle for them. It wasn't a commission build, but it was nice to see something that I put my time, effort, and my passion into. I originally built it for myself, to see somebody else getting so much enjoyment and satisfaction out of it. Even if it just sits in their collection as a piece of art, that's still an honor to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And that pleasure of giving it to a family that is just trying to have their best interests and give it to their grandfather, it just for the memories. And that's really, truly something special to behold.
Absolutely.
Well, Jared, I tell you, I mean, it's just been so great talking and just finding out more about what you have to offer. Let me ask you this. Are there some crazy requests that happen when in the midst of somebody sending you a bike to restore? I mean, do sometimes some of the guests, you don't have to say specific, obviously, names or whatnot, but are there usually any type of crazy requests that come along with it?
Probably the hardest as a mechanic, as a builder, the hardest ones that I have to do are motorcycles that's been passed down from either grandfather or father, that back in the 60s or 70s, they modified it into a chopper. And, the guys that back then, they used the tools that they had in their garage, the pieces and parts. And a lot of the work that they do is not the most safe work. So I'm really particular when it comes to somebody bringing me a family heirloom like that. Number one, safety is always first. And I don't want anything to come out of my shop that could cause somebody else harm. And so, a lot of those discussions are difficult discussions saying, hey, I can mechanically restore it back to where to run, but I am not liable, the welding and all of the modifications that they did, so there's a lot of legal stuff that goes along with that. I make sure they sign a liability waiver and say, that's not my problem. So,
of course. Absolutely. I mean, this is the age that we live in now. It's liability, there's reasons for it, so that's quite understandable. But Nancy Weems passed along a story to me, a little thing about Marvel. And you obviously know with pop culture, Marvel is such a dominant force in the pop culture realm. But can you go ahead and tell us a little bit of story about the Marvel bike that you have to go ahead and restore that kind of set things off for Nancy and how she referred me to you in the first place?
So throughout the last few months, I've been working on a motorcycle. It's actually a replica of a David Mann painting, which David Mann was a painter, artist that painted centerfolds for Easy Rider magazine and several magazines. So I've been I've been building this replica of this painting that he's doing. And through the midst of that, a lot of attention has come my way for what I'm doing, as I'm going to be raffling the motorcycle off with all the proceeds going to a local nonprofit that takes care of kids who's aged out of the foster care system. But through the midst of that, a lot more attention come my way, and I've been working on my merchandise line, and I wanted to work on some new logos and things for my business. And I reached out to a good friend of mine, and he started doing some designing for me. And one particular logo that I really enjoyed in the motorcycle industry, there's what's called the winged wheel. Mm-hmm. And this is something from, it's an Art Deco design from the 20s, 30s, and 40s. That basically it's a symbology of the advancement of industry. And that's how motorcycles kind of did that, and how it advanced everything for us. So I wanted to have someone create for me a winged wheel for a logo that I could do for t-shirts and stickers and things. So I reached out to my friend, and he was like, man, I have a good buddy, and he works for Marvel Comics, and actually he's the head illustrator for a lot of the Iron Man comics, and he wants to help out on this project. He wants to do this logo for you. And I was like, what? I'm like, this is awesome. I was like, man, by all means, if he's all excited about doing this, let's do it up. And man, he came up with this incredible logo. A lot of my logos, I like to keep them very simplistic and very impactful, almost like a clip art kind of style, very bold, just big lines and things. And he came up with this amazing drawing of him. He took an actual Triumph motorcycle wheel and recreated it into his drawing and added this wing on the back of it. And then along the side of the tire, it actually says Weems Motor Co. So super excited. It came out great. Next week, I'll be having T-shirts come in, and those will be up on the website for sale. I have button pins with those on them. I'm doing some hats and some different things with that logo because it's an honor for somebody at that level to be able to volunteer and just give it as a gift for me to be able to use. So big thanks going out to him.
And that'll be up on your storefront at weemsmotorco.com/store. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
So before we head on out, I just wanted to go ahead and give you the floor, not only what you're doing at Weems Motor Co. and why people should go ahead and turn to you for their vintage British Triumph motorcycle restoration, but also a special event and a raffle that a lot of people should be interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was saying earlier, I've been working on this motorcycle. It's a recreation of a David Mann photo. And I've partnered with a local nonprofit organization called Forgotten Angels. And what Forgotten Angels does is they bring in kids who have aged out of the foster care system. That means once they've reached the age of 18, the state of Florida no longer provides funds for that family. And a lot of these kids, unfortunately, are part of families that only foster for money. And so Forgotten Angels brings them in, gives them a safe place, a home, a place where they can learn how to become a part of society. They learn how to get jobs. They learn how to set up bank accounts, learn how to finish their high school degrees and stuff like that. So I've partnered with them, and we've made the decision that we're going to be raffling this bike off with all of the proceeds going to support that amazing organization. Coming up this next Saturday, August the 1st, is going to be the kickoff of that raffle, and you guys are the first to hear the specific date, so congratulations to you guys.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, so there's going to be some Facebook Live, some Instagram Live, some big things going around that. I'm going to do some giveaways this week leading up until the actual kickoff of the raffle. But the raffle will cover basically for 6 months. At the end of Bike Week in Daytona in March, we will be pulling the winners, and there's actually going to be 4 winners. The first place winner receives the motorcycle and the limited edition print of the painting that I built the motorcycle from, print number 1, the only one on canvas. Second place winner is going to be winning a Biltwell helmet. My good friend Bill from Biltwell Industries donated a helmet for it. And the third place winner is going to be receiving a prize package from Lowbrow Customs. My good friend Tyler donated like a huge package of their merchandise. And then the last place is going to be winning a package from Weems Motor Co. and the David Mann official store. So tickets are only $25 a piece, super cheap for considering you could be winning a, priceless, essentially, this custom motorcycle. If you want to do a generous donation of $100, you'll get an additional ticket. That'll be 5 tickets for that. And like I said, all proceeds are going to Forgotten Angels to be able to give them the support so that they can help as many of these kids get off the streets and get into a safe place.
Well, that's a great cause indeed. And for more information, like you said, head over to your social media. Is that correct? Your Instagram and your Facebook?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram. That's weemsmotorco.tampa. That's both Instagram and Facebook. Go over there, hit like, hit share, hit follow. You'll see a lot of the updates. But also on the website, www.weemsmotorco.com, there's a tab at the top that says raffle. It gives you all of the details, all of the prizes, all of the information you need to know, and you'll be able to purchase the tickets starting August the 1st. Straight from the website. You'll just click on the button and it'll be activated. It'll take you right into the program so you can purchase your tickets right from weemsmotorco.com.
That's truly an awesome cause, and that's a great thing that you're doing. And it all starts August 1st. You heard it here first. And so we truly appreciate you giving us the scoop and exclusive on that one. We truly appreciate it. So when this gets heard around the world on radio worldwide, and people can go ahead and find out more information at weemsmotorco.com or on your Facebook, your Instagram, but also right there on the site, there's a raffle slot that you can go ahead and right there on the site, they can go ahead and type in, click on the raffle page, and I'll be right there for you on that, starting, like you said, on August 1st. Can't wait to hear all the success stories that come from that, and all the great things that you're going to be doing with that, because it's just definitely a great cause indeed.
Just this fall is going to be crazy. I'm taking the motorcycle all the way across the country from Tampa to California and all the stops in between to a lot of major motorcycle events. The motorcycle is going to be featured in several national and international publications. So whoever wins this is going to be receiving something amazing. But I just want to encourage the people, even if you don't win and you're just that guy that purchases a $25 ticket, your $25 is going to help these kids that need it so much. And you can find out all of the information on Forgotten Angels at www.forgottenangelsflorida.org. There's also a link to that on my raffle tab on our website.
Oh, sounds awesome. Again, another great cause right there with ForgottenAngels.com, and so much more that you're doing for that organization and the people who need it. And for more information, even more on the raffle, or do you want to go ahead and buy some raffle tickets, just head to, like I said before, your Instagram, your Facebook, or just simply go to WeemsMotorCo.com. Just awesome to talk to you, Jared. All this great information again, and people just, if they have an interest to go ahead and restore their Triumph, there's no better place to go for their motorcycle than Jared Weems. Jared,
Thank you,
I'll tell you
Gerald.
what. Oh, no problem. Thanks for again for stopping by right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.
If you need your video game fix, be sure to check out Retro City Games. Located in Town Square on Las Vegas Boulevard or in Henderson, Nevada, Retro City Games has the cure for all your video game vices. Retro games and games for current consoles, Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, Xbox, and more. Retro City Games has all the staples from any library and some highly collectible offerings too. So pick up a few games today at Retro City Games in Town Square on Las Vegas Boulevard or in Henderson, Nevada. Retro City Games is your video game metropolis.
And we're back to close out the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. Want to thank Jared Weems for joining us today. If you're listening to us worldwide on radio and also as well any of our audio podcast outlets, want to thank him so much for joining us today. Go ahead and support his great causes with his raffle that he announced and gave us the sneak peek on starting August 1st. So you want to check out WeemsMotorCo.com. Go ahead and be part of the raffle. It's going to a great charity, and I cannot thank him enough for stopping by on the program. But before we head on out, my friend, again, I want to tell everybody, if you get a chance, there's a great game that's out. It's called Sisters Royale. If you're interested in those top-down shooters with kind of like a JRPG look, I tell you what, this is the place to go. Sisters Royale, had a lot of fun with it. I'm going to have a deeper review of it with Josh as he reviews his game, Crosscode, coming up on our Friday program. But my initial impressions is it's a lot of fun. Hopefully going to be able to stream a lot more out there of Sisters Royale. I'm looking forward to doing so here in the coming few days. Looking forward to it, but my initial impressions are that if you want a great top-down shooter, this might be the place to go. Sisters Royale. Available now for Switch, for Steam, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. It's Sisters Royale. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. But my friend, before we head on out, I want to talk about video game crowd noise. All right, here we go, my friend. The NBA is coming back into session. I'm so excited. I've been talking a lot about it with a ton of great guests on the Lakers Fast Break. I think I'm going to close in on 20 to 23 podcasts for the month of July for the Lakers Fast Break with some great interviews, all very relevant, so check it out. But one thing that I did touch on, especially with Laker Tom from Lakerholics.com, is the crowd noise that's piped in because, you know, they're in the confines of a bubble in Orlando, Florida, Disney World, ABC, Wide World of Sports complex, and there's no crowd there, so they're piping in with certain broadcasts. Some broadcasts are choosing not to, some are, and the ones that are piping in crowd noise, allegedly, and actually they've, I think, admitted this too in some occasions, from NBA 2K. So you hear this murmur. You hear this murmur. You don't hear any highs or lows. You just keep hearing this murmur. LeBron James, slam dunk, hear this murmur. Takes away from the ambiance of the game, personally, for me. I cannot stand it. It's really irritating to me. And I think a lot of other people are saying the same thing as well. But the worst part about it is, my friend, is not only the NBA is doing it, but NHL is going to be taking sounds from EA NHL games. And the fact that maybe, too, that the NFL might be taking it from Madden. So I want to hear your thoughts on, should the real sports world take the crowd noise from the video game sports world?
Absolutely not.
Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you.
This is like having your own like studio audience. Like, it just recordings. Like, it just doesn't.
The laugh reel.
Why? What's it going to do for anybody? What's it going to do for the players? What's it going to do? The viewers don't care about what's happening in the stands. It's not going to make them any more or less excited to watch it. It's there to see one team play another. They don't really care. Who is it for? Like, that's the big question that I have.
I don't know why. The geniuses at the powers that be, they thought it would be a good idea. It's lame. The broadcasts and the outlets that are using it to pipe in post-production while the game is going on, it's just lame. I understand that there's a delay and they can pipe that in there, but it's just awful. Ugh, they need to get rid of it like yesterday.
It's like a Michael Crichton scenario, right? Just because you have the power to do something, should you do it?
Exactly. It's irritating, my friend. I mean, I'm watching an NBA game, and I can clearly tell you that I enjoy so much more when I hear the squeak of the sneakers, shouting of plays, the calling out of defensive schemes. The bench, for one team, their player really does good. They're up in arms. You can hear them shout. You can hear them cheering their teammates on. That I enjoy. What I don't enjoy is the constant.
I wonder if this is kind of a way to like conceal. I don't know if you've ever listened to like the mic'd up trash talk in the NHL, but I mean, I wonder if this is their way of concealing like just the pure onslaught of swear words that come out of some of these players' mouths, because then they wouldn't be able to broadcast it. It wouldn't be according to standards. So on some sports games, it does slip occasionally. You hear a player like spout the F word or say the S word or something, but I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
It might, but it's still very disappointing. And they have, remember, up to a 10-second delay that they can utilize. I know the 7-second delay is quite often referred to, but these networks, they have that delay. They have the dump button. They have someone there that's supposed to be being paid an amount to hit that button. And I've heard on Twitter already, for Carmelo Anthony from the Portland Trailblazers is probably the best example of someone who, if you get the live feed, the actual live raw feed, you can actually hear the swearing. And there was a famous one where he gets a rebound and told everybody to F off and I've got it, and he took the ball up court. Again, you have that delay, you have that dump button. There is no need for this awful crowd noise.
Yeah, it goes back. In the NHL, like some of the mic'd up talk is pretty funny, like just them insulting each other about their beards and stuff. But at the end of the day, it really makes me wonder, who's this for? Who asked for this? Who even thought about doing something like this? Because I find the sports noise annoying even in sport games. It's who is it for?
It's for the person that played 2K before they went ahead and turned on the show. What are your thoughts out there on piped in crowd noise from video games inflicting us with it in real sports games? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Once again, we're going to talk about more Sisters Royale and Crosscode, plus all the latest pop culture news and trends coming up on our Friday episode, The PCC Multiverse. Everybody check out, if you get a chance, we truly appreciate it, our Facebook Live videos, all the stuff that we do on social media, at Pop Culture Cosmo on Twitter, Pop Culture Cosmos, everywhere you get your social media. And of course, if you get a chance, check out all the stuff that we're doing at the Lakers Fast Break, the Super BS Gamescast, and of course, right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Any last thoughts on the way out, my friend? Because it's been just a tremendous episode, but did you have any more thoughts on the way out?
I think I'm good. I am really excited about that Snyder cut, though. So, hopefully the rest ends up being just as good as I'm hoping it'll be. But yeah, if you haven't checked out that clip, definitely go do that.
Justice indeed, my friend. Justice indeed. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great